Welcome once again, friends, to this series of programs that we are conducting now as part of our mission, Finance for Everyone. In today's session, we are going to cover another very interesting subject, and that is how to serve as an effective director on the board of a company. Friends, in the recent past, the government of India has brought out many economic reforms, and some of those reforms directly benefit the professionals in this country. One such reform is introduction of independent directors on selected companies, on the board of selected companies in India based on certain parameters. And this facility or this particular reform is available for the professionals like chartered accountants, cost accountants, company secretaries, MBAs, architects, engineers, lawyers, and the whole objective of the government of India behind bringing out this reform is to ensure that the degree and level of corporate governance should improve in this country. Keeping this objective, the government of India has brought out this reform of independent director, need for independent directors on the boards of listed companies in this country and also on the boards of certain companies which are not listed but meet the parameters as specified under the income tax, under the Companies Act. So, how to serve as an effective independent director? I am sure all of you are in any case aware that to be able to serve as an independent director today, you have to pass a proficiency test. And I have already done a video on this, which you can search on my YouTube channel and view it. In this session, we are going to cover how to serve as an effective independent directors, as an effective independent director. Now, why are we doing all these videos? And we are doing all these videos, friends, because for us, that is a mission. And what is the mission? The mission is finance knowledge for everyone. As part of this mission, over next 4 to 6 months, we are going to cover 29 different subjects. And under those 29 different subjects, we are going to deliver videos on about 500 topics. The subjects that we are going to cover as part of this series would include something like finance management for 10 times growth in profits, efficient working capital management, cash flow management, cost of capital, business valuation, corporate governance and business ethics, risk management, Indian accounting standards, IBC, and so many of them. As part of this series, this is the second session that we are conducting today. And how to become an effective director. तो सवाल ये है कि अगर मुझे एक कंपनी के बोर्ड पर इंडिपेंडेंट डायरेक्टर करके अपॉइंटमेंट होने का मौका मिलता है तो हाउ डू आई एंश्योर दैट इन कैपेसिटी ऑफ an independent director, I add tremendous value to that company. Not only I am able to add tremendous value to the company, but I am also able to ensure that the degree and the level of corporate governance in that company and otherwise is also sustained. So, friends, in my view, in order to be an effective director, there are three prerequisites that we need. Number one, what we need is leadership. Remember, to be on the board of a company as an independent director, it is a leadership role. And therefore, to be successful as an independent director, we need to ensure that we exhibit leadership qualities. We give leadership to the organization. Number two, we need to have clarity about the role and expectation. So as an independent director, when I join board of a company, then what are the expectations of the organization? What are the expectations of the company as a whole? That is why what I need to be aware of. And number three, which of course is equally important, and that is non-leadership prerequisites. So number one, of course, you've got to be a good leader. But besides being a good leader, for being successful as an independent director, what we need certain non-leadership prerequisites. And what those prerequisites are, friends, that is what we're going to discuss in this session today. So first of all, besides the leadership, the second requirement is independent for an independent director, the role and expectations. In my understanding, the role and expectations from a person who is joining the board of a company in the capacity of independent director, the first one is provide vision. So, as an independent, as part of the board of directors of that company, role and responsibilities and the expectations which are there from the board of the company are also equally applicable to you as an independent director. So, as the board and as part of the board, the one role expectation is provide vision. Number two, give direction to the organization. Number three, extend supervision. Number four, ensure control. So, uh, giving vision is fine, giving direction is also fine, giving supervision is also fine, but giving control, ensuring control is also very important. It should not happen that the company is going in a wrong direction. So even if the company is going in a very high speed, but if it is going in the wrong direction and there is no control, that company is going to be in trouble. As an independent director, it is our responsibility also to provide control. Then number five is all this we need to do so as to achieve maximum value creation by the company with the proper and timely risk management through good corporate governance practices and with necessary compliances as a country's representative. So please remember, when you are there on the board of a company, who are you representing? You are not representing the small shareholders. You are not representing the promoters. You are not representing the shareholders. As an independent director on the board of a company, you are representing the entire economy. You are representing the entire economy. And that is what is the role expectation that we have from the independent directors. And finally, please take your role as an independent director as an opportunity of self-actualization as per the Maslow's need hierarchy. So these are the 10 expectations and the role and responsibilities expected from an independent director. So basically what we are saying is help the company remain focused on its vision and mission and compliant with the corporate governance rules and regulations. So this is the second thing other than the leadership role as an independent director we are expected to fulfill so as to emerge as a successful, as an effective independent director. Now we come to the third part, and the third requirement is the non-leadership prerequisites. That means, what are the prerequisites that we need for being a good and effective independent director other than the leadership? So what we need is, number one, is to have good understanding of purpose of a business. We got to really be totally clear as to what is the purpose of a business. Most people think that the purpose of a business is to make profit, but let me tell you that is a wrong notion. Purpose of a business is not to make profit. Making profit is necessary. Making profit is non-negotiable. Making profit is mandatory. Making profit is compulsory. Making profit in business is something that you have to do, but it is not the purpose of a business. What is the purpose of a business? That is what an independent director need to understand very clearly. Number two, as part of the non-leadership prerequisites, ability to promote and ensure good corporate governance. So one of the prime objective for the government of India to bring out this reform as introduction of independent director on the board of listed companies and certain other companies is to ensure that these independent directors, with their knowledge, understanding, expertise, and experience, should be able to promote and ensure that that company is complying with good corporate governance. Number three, as independent director, we really need to have good understanding of Indian accounting standards. Please remember, all the companies which are listed on the stock exchanges or the companies which are in the process of getting listed on the stock exchanges, there is a mandatory application of Indian accounting standards, which is nothing but an adapted version of IFRS, which is International Financial Standards. So, as an independent director, you really need to have good understanding of any company anywhere in the world मिलते हैं तो वो जो लैंग्वेज जो जिसमें बात करते हैं वो फ्रेंच नहीं होती है वो जर्मन नहीं होती है वो मैंडरिन नहीं होती है वो स्पेनिश नहीं होती है वो पोर्तुगीज नहीं होती है वो इंग्लिश नहीं होती है वो हिंदी नहीं होती है so then what is the language that they speak when the board of directors are meeting in a board meeting and the language that they speak is the language of finance and therefore, for being successful as an independent director, our understanding of the Indian accounting standards must be fairly good. I'm not saying that independent director must be an expert in the Indian accounting standards. Of course, that will be too much of an expectation from someone, especially who is from a non-finance background. But if you are from a finance background, if you're a chartered accountant, cost accountant, company secretary, or MBA in finance, then of course you are supposed to have good understanding of Indian accounting standards. Otherwise, working knowledge of the Indian accounting standards is also good enough. And then number four, what is also necessary for anyone to become a successful independent director or for anyone to serve as an effective independent director is to have good understanding of financial statements. And as part of the good understanding of financial statements, what you need to know, really speaking, not much. So what you need to understand is the profit and loss statement. What is profit and loss statement? What purpose does it serve? That is what you need to understand. Then you need to understand the balance sheet. What is balance sheet? What does it contain? What does it convey? That is what anyone who is acting as an independent director need to understand. And the third thing that you need to understand is the cash flow statement. What is cash flow statement? What does it tell you? What all information does it comprise? And how to figure it out whether whether a company's cash flow statement is a good cash flow statement or a bad cash flow statement. And having understood these three financial statements, that is profit and loss, balance sheet, and the cash flow statement, you also need to have good understanding of the relationship between the profit and loss, balance sheet, and the cash flow statement. Meaning what? Meaning how does P&L of a company would impact the balance sheet of a company, and how would the balance sheet of a company will impact the P&L, the cash flow of the company, and how the cash flow of a company in turn will impact the P&L and the balance sheet of company going forward. And that is what you need to understand. And finally, of course, what you need to understand is how to read financial statements. And friends, that is what I'm going to cover as we move forward. So first of all, what is purpose of a business? And let me make it very clear at this juncture that the purpose of any business and every business anywhere in the world is one and same, and that is to create value. दुनिया में कोई भी कंपनी हो, कोई सी भी इंडस्ट्री हो, कोई सी भी ज्योग्राफी हो, कोई भी प्रमोटर हो, कोई भी टेक्नोलॉजी हो, कोई भी प्रोडक्ट हो, कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. दुनिया के सारे बिजनेसेस का एक ही पर्पस है, एक ही मकसद है, एंड दैट इज टू क्रिएट वैल्यू. और क्रिएट वैल्यू का मतलब क्या है? क्रिएट वैल्यू का मतलब बहुत सिंपल है. क्रिएट वैल्यू का मतलब है टू मेक दिस वर्ल्ड अ बेटर प्लेस टू लिव today than what it was yesterday. And that is value, creation of value, of create value. So remember, that is the purpose of a business, and that is to create value. As an independent director, we need to be constantly aware of this fact that the purpose of the business is to create value. So as an independent director, we need to keep on checking and keep on asking ourselves, is this company doing right things so as to ensure that this company is creating value and not the other way around? And that is what is the purpose of a business. But how do you create value? You create value, number one, by converting resources into results, and then converting result into resources. तो पहले क्या करिए, आपके पास में पैसा है, बिजनेस खड़ा करिए. तो जब आप पैसे को यूज करके बिजनेस खड़ा करते हैं, व्हाट यू आर डूइंग, यू आर कन्वर्टिंग रिसोर्सेज इनटू रिजल्ट, एंड दैट इज व्हाट इज ग्रोथ. एंड उसके बाद में क्या करिए, उसके बाद में कन्वर्ट द रिजल्ट इनटू रिसोर्सेज. अब आपने फैक्ट्री खड़ी कर दी है, तो फैक्ट्री में आप प्रोडक्ट बनाइए, मार्केट में सेल करिए. मार्केट में सेल करेंगे तो आपको कैश मिलेगा, आप प्रॉफिट बनाएंगे, आपको कैश मिलेगा. And that means what you're doing is you are converting the result into the resources. And finally, of course, why do you have to convert resources into result and the result into resources? And that is so as to make positive difference in the life of everyone and contributing to नेशंस इकोनॉमी. अब देखो फ्रेंड्स, आपने आजकल बहुत कॉमनली आप सुनते हैं द सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल्स एसडीजी brought out by the UN, and every company talking in terms of the ESG, environment, society, and the governance. What all that is all about the corporate governance. And remember, if you understand this aspect, then you understand what is corporate governance in a very simple words. So converting resources into result is growth. Converting result into resources is profit. And using the profit and the growth for bringing positive difference in others' life is what corporate governance is all about. So as an independent director, remember that the purpose of a business is to create value. And when you are on the board of a company, you and I need to ensure that the company on whose board we are, that company is creating value. Now, how do you ensure and how do you promote good corporate governance? And friends, I'm very happy to share with you the complete road. कि अगर मुझे as an independent have to make an impact on the board of the company where I'm acting as an independent director, I need to be completely clear about the canvas of the good corporate governance in this country. And you and I have to understand the canvas of good corporate governance in this country. What you and I need to understand, number one, the provisions in this country as far as the corporate governance is concerned are comprised under the Companies Act, under the LODR, and under the INDES, and finally under the IBC. In case if the company, if you happen to be connected with a company which is unfortunately or incidentally has gone under the IBC 2016. So what are the parameters? So the first parameter that we need to have good understanding of is appointment, the provisions relating to appointment and qualification of director. Obviously, you are getting appointed on the board of a company as an independent director. So whether independent or otherwise, a director is a director. And therefore, you and I need to have good understanding of chapter 11, comprising of section 149 to 172. And of course, regulation 17, which is of LODR 2015. Then we need to have good understanding of meetings of board and its powers. So सीधी सी बात है, आप किसी कंपनी के बोर्ड पर हैं as an independent director, तो आपको मालूम होना चाहिए कि as a director or as the board of a company, what are the powers of that board of directors? You must be completely familiar. And for that, you need to have a good understanding of Chapter 17, which comprises of Section 173 to Section 195. And remember, not only you have to look at Chapter 12 under the Companies Act, but you also need to look at Regulation 17, which is as part of the LODR 2015. Then you come to the audit committee. So please remember, when you are there on the board of a company as an independent director, there is a good chance that you, depending on, in case if you happen to be a finance professional, if you happen to be a cost accountant, company secretary, chartered accountant, or an MBA in finance, or with any other qualification in finance, there's a full possibility that you may get the opportunity of heading the audit committee of the company. And if not heading, being an independent director, there is a full possibility that you will be on the audit committee. And therefore, you and I need to have good understanding of Section 177 that deals with audit committee under the Companies Act. तो audit committee का क्या role है, उसकी क्या responsibility है, audit committee के members ने क्या करना चाहिए, ऑडिट कमेटी के मेंबर्स ने क्या नहीं करना चाहिए, ऑडिट कमेटी की क्या सिग्निफिकेंस है, कर सकती है, वैल्यू क्रिएट कर सकती है. सो ऑल्सो हैव अ गुड अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ रेगुलेशन 18 ऑफ LODR. And then of course you come to section 149 and section 150. अब देखिए section 149 and section 150, these two sections of Companies Act 2013, these two sections directly deal with the provisions relating to the independent director. तो सीधी सी बात है, अगर आप किसी कंपनी के बोर्ड पर इंडिपेंडेंट डायरेक्टर की हैसियत से अपॉइंट हो रहे हैं, तो मेरा और आपका ये फर्ज बनता है कि मैं और आप सेक्शन 149 और 150 में क्या लिखा है कंपनीज एक्ट में, उसको अच्छी तरह से समझ लें. बिकॉज उसको अच्छी तरह से समझेंगे तो उसका एडवांटेज हमको क्या होगा, उसका एडवांटेज हमको ये होगा कि उसकी वजह से हमारे मन में हमारी रोल एंड रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी की क्लैरिटी बहुत क्लियर होगी. एंड देन ऑफ कोर्स also look at regulation 25 as prescribed under LODR 2015. Not only we need to look at section 149 and 150, we also need to look at the code of independent director. So in the Companies Act 2030, there's a schedule called Schedule 4, and this Schedule 4, friends, is nothing but code of independent director. So अगर आप किसी कंपनी के बोर्ड पर हैं एज एन इंडिपेंडेंट डायरेक्टर, या आप किसी कंपनी के बोर्ड पर अपॉइंट होने वाले हैं as an independent director, या फिर आप किसी, if you are looking for being appointed as an independent director on the board of any company, then what you also need to do, you also need to go through a code of independent director, which is given in Schedule 4 of the Companies Act. Now, friends, let me tell you, related party transactions is an area which is full of all kinds of risk and all kinds of possibilities of bad corporate governance happening in any organization. As a matter of fact, अगर आप एनालाइज करेंगे और अगर आप थोड़ा पीछे मुड़ के देखेंगे और अगर आप आज जो न्यूज़पेपर में लिखा आता है, मीडिया में लिखा आता है, उसको अगर आप गौर से पढ़ेंगे तो आपको ध्यान में आएगा कि सारे ही केसेस में जहां पर भी बैड कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस के केसेस हुए हैं, जहां पर भी स्कैम हुए हैं, वन ऑफ द प्राइम रीजन or one of the prime mode for those scams or bad practices is related party transactions. And therefore, as an independent director, have a good understanding of section 188. Section 188 में क्या लिखा है, section 188 के क्या provisions हैं, section 188 आपसे एज एन इंडिपेंडेंट डायरेक्टर क्या एक्सपेक्ट करता है, आपसे एज अ बोर्ड मेंबर क्या एक्सपेक्ट करता है. दैट इज व्हाट यू मस्ट बी aware so as to be able to do that job as an independent director. And not only section 188 that you need to look at for being clear about the related party transaction, you also need to look at regulation 23 and regulation 23 as part of the LODR. So ऐसा नहीं है कि खाली section 188 में ही provisions हैं relating to the related party transaction. Even the LODR, the regulation 23 of LODR also talks about the related party transaction. And remember, these are the statutory obligations which need to be taken care of by the company, by the board of directors of the company. And if these are the obligations of the board of directors of companies, and if you are independent director on a board of a company, obviously it also becomes your responsibility to ensure that all these provisions are duly taken care of. और मैं आपको बताऊं कि जहां तक रिलेटेड पार्टी ट्रांजैक्शन का सवाल है, besides section 188 of the Companies Act, besides regulation 23 of LODR, you also need to look at Indes 24. So Indes 24, Indian Accounting Standards 24 is again about related party transactions. So that is what you need to have a good understanding. तो ये 3 प्राइम हैं जिनके बारे में आपको एज एन इंडिपेंडेंट डायरेक्टर बहुत अच्छी अंडरस्टैंडिंग रखना बहुत जरूरी है, सो एज टू बी able to be an effective independent director. Or agar if you happen to be on the board of a company which has gone under IBC, in that case section 5 subsection 24 and 24A of IBC Code 2016 also has provisions with regard to the related party transactions. So in case if you happen to be associated with a company which has gone under IBC, then you also need to ensure that your understanding about the related party as such is very clear from the perspective of the IBC. Then you need to look at the role and powers of auditors. So please remember, auditors have a very significant role in good corporate governance anywhere in the world, absolutely anywhere in the world, and more so in our country. So Section 143 deals with the role and power of auditors. तो auditors हैं जो कि कंपनी के अकाउंट्स को ऑडिट करते हैं, कंपनी के अकाउंटिंग के ऊपर रिपोर्ट करते हैं, तो उनकी उनके जो पावर्स है, उनका जो रोल है, वो भी आपको मालूम होना चाहिए। क्यों मालूम होना चाहिए? क्योंकि auditors, unfortunately or incidentally, in many of the cases, at fault in many of these scams, which are, why should you let have that kind of you are there? So be aware of the provisions of Section 143, and so that you are well versed with the role and powers of the auditors, and you are able to take the corrective steps as and when required proactively. Then, of course, look at the accounting standards, and accounting standards are covered under Section 133 of the Companies Act. Regulation 48 of the LODR also stipulates certain obligations with regard to the financial reporting by a company. And as independent director, remember, you have to really be well versed with this aspect. And as far as the indices are concerned, remember, you really have to have good understanding. And here I will like to mention कि अगर आप एक चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट हैं, कॉस्ट अकाउंटेंट हैं, कंपनी सेक्रेटरी हैं, या आप एक एमबीए फाइनेंस हैं, तो फिर आपकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग अबाउट द इंडियन अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स really has to be very, very good, because as an independent director, being a finance professional, you should be able to guide the entire board from time to time with regard to the accounting. And for you, and I'm sure all of you will be aware that as it stands today, all the listed companies, as I mentioned a little while ago, all the listed companies in this country, to them, accounting standards, Indian accounting standards have already become mandatory. So that means all the companies which are listed, all the companies which are in the process of getting listed, for them, keeping the accounts in line with the 39 accounting standards is mandatory, and they have to do it. They have no choice. And therefore, as a finance professional, you got to be having very good understanding so as to be able to guide the board with regard to the accounting, and also be able to interact in case if you happen to be the chairman of the audit committee, or if you happen to be a member of the audit committee, you should be able to interact with the auditors very effectively in that role. So that is that is where, and if you are not an MBA or a chartered accountant or a company secretary or an MBA finance, so basically if you're a non-finance professional, then it would be too much to expect you to be very good in the Indian accounting standards, because that is not possible. Indian accounting standards is a subject by itself, and but at least you as a non-finance professional, be aware as to what these accounting standards are, and why should you be aware, so that when the discussions are happening, and remember, more often than not, discussions always center around the numbers. So in those situations, you would be able to correlate as to what discussions are going on. And finally, friends, of course, you have Section 135 under the Companies Act, and that is about the corporate social responsibility. So under Section 135, the companies to which this section is applicable, and obviously if your company is listed, this section is definitely applicable. So there are certain obligations under Section 135 with regard to the corporate social responsibility. One of the prime obligation is a company to which Section 135 is applicable. This company has to spend 2% of the average profit of last 3 years on the corporate social activities. And for that corporate social activities, Schedule 7 of the Companies Act list out certain activities on which this money has to be spent. So, as an independent director, there's a full possibility that you may be on the board of the CSR committee of a company. So, to be effective in that role, you and I need to have good understanding of Section 135 as well. The whole idea of having this session, assuming that either you are already on the board of a company as an independent director, or you wish to be on the board of a company as an independent director, idea of this session that I am doing with you, sharing with you, is to ensure that you do not have to reinvent the wheel and find out कि मुझे क्या क्या करना चाहिए so that I am able to be an effective independent director. Idea of this session is to share with you everything readily available for you to start working on them and emerge as a successful and effective independent director. कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता है कि आप फाइनेंस प्रोफेशनल हैं कि नहीं हैं, आप एक इंडिपेंडेंट डायरेक्टर हैं। अगर आप इतना सब कुछ करते हैं, इतना सब कुछ ग्रेस्प करते हैं, आई एम श्योर दिस विल डेफिनेटली हेल्प यू to become a very effective and impactful independent director. तो अब देखिए, जहां तक कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस का सवाल है, सेबी from time to time keeps bringing out different regulations, and as an independent director, it is necessary that you and I are well versed with these regulations. So some of these regulations which are very prominent, one is listing obligation and disclosure requirement. In short, it is known as LODR. The second one is issue of capital and disclosure requirements. यानी कि जब कोई कंपनी पब्लिक इशू करती है या राइट्स इशू करती है या फिर फॉलो अप इशू करती है, या जब भी कोई कंपनी नए शेयर्स इशू करती है या डिवेंचर इशू करती है या और कोई फाइनेंशियल इंस्ट्रूमेंट इशू करती है, तो उस समय कौन कौन से ऑब्लिगेशन है कंपनी के, एंड दोज ऑब्लिगेशंस आर कवर्ड इन दिस रेगुलेशन व्हिच इज इशू ऑफ कैपिटल एंड डिस्क्लोजर रिक्वायरमेंट. इन शॉर्ट, इट इज नोन एज ICDR. Third regulation of SEBI is prohibition of insider trading. Please remember, as an independent director or otherwise, there are certain you are privy to very confidential information about the company from time to time, and therefore, unfortunately or incidentally, some people in the past have misused the private information or confidential information by making money through trading on the stock markets. Not permitted, illegal, and absolutely unethical, should not be done under any situation. And this regulation in short is known as PIT. As an independent director, you and I need to be fully aware of the provisions of prohibition of insider trading. Why? So that knowingly or unknowingly, we do not do anything which will put us in trouble as per the regulation of prohibition of insider trading. Number 4 is the substantial acquisition of shares and takeovers. So this, in short, is known as SAST. And number 5 is delisting of equity shares, which in short is known as DOES. And finally, share-based employee benefits, and which are in short known as SBES. Now, friends, all these regulations are very easily accessible. You just need to go to the portal of SEBI, and you can very easily download these regulations and prepare yourself on these regulations. So even if you go through them once or twice, that should be good enough for you to be well versed as to what are the provisions under these very important regulations brought out by SEBI from time to time. As regards the Indian accounting standards, friends, let me tell you, if professional हैं, चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट हैं, कॉस्ट अकाउंटेंट हैं, कंपनी सेक्रेटरी हैं, या MBA इन फाइनेंस हैं, या फिर आपके पास में कोई दूसरी फाइनेंस से रिलेटेड क्वालिफिकेशन है, तो डेफिनेटली ये एक्सपेक्टेशन है ही है कि आपकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ द अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स शुड बी वेरी वेरी गुड. और अगर आप एक फाइनेंस प्रोफेशनल नहीं है, तो आपकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग अबाउट द इंडियन अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स doesn't have to be of a very high level. बट यू मस्ट एटलीस्ट नो कि कौन कौन से अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स हैं और उनमें क्या क्या कवर किया हुआ है। तो आपके बेनिफिट के लिए मैंने क्या किया है, मैंने ये सारे अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स को 7 अलग अलग सेक्शंस में डिवाइड किया है। सो सबसे पहले है अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स रिलेटिंग टू presentations and disclosure. So there are 8 accounting standards that you should be aware of as a non-finance professional. You should be aware of कि ये accounting standard है और ये इसके ऊपर है. This is what it covers. But if you are a finance professional, of course, it is expected. Then the second category treatment, there are 5 accounting standards that we need to be aware of. And the third category is the balance sheet. Under the balance sheet, there are 7 accounting standards that we need to be aware of. Under the fourth category, and that is your separate financial statements or and the consolidated financial statement, उससे related 5 accounting standards हैं जिनके बारे में हमारी जानकारी अच्छी होनी चाहिए एज एन इंडिपेंडेंट डायरेक्टर. एंड द फिफ्थ कैटेगरी इज रिलेटिंग टू प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस. एंड रिलेटिंग टू प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस देयर आर 6 अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स जिनके बारे में हमारी समझ अच्छी होनी चाहिए. And then sixth category is there are certain accounting standards which are applicable to special situations. Now these 5 accounting standards are not applicable to every company. These 5 accounting standards are applicable to only certain companies. So you should be aware in any case as to what these 5 accounting standards are. And finally, of course, the seventh category relates to the financial instruments. And under this group, there are 3 accounting standards. So friends, all put together, there are 39 accounting standards. And as I said earlier, अगर आप एक finance professional हैं, आपकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग इन अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स के बारे में बहुत अच्छी होनी चाहिए. एज ए मैटर ऑफ फैक्ट इतनी अच्छी होनी चाहिए सो दैट यू आर एबल टू गाइड द एंटायर बोर्ड. और अगर आप नॉन फाइनेंस प्रोफेशनल हैं, अगर आप इंडिपेंडेंट डायरेक्टर हैं जो कि फाइनेंस जिनका कि फाइनेंस बैकग्राउंड नहीं है, तो आपकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग एक्सपर्ट की होने की जरूरत नहीं है. लेकिन आपको कम से कम इतना तो मालूम होना चाहिए कि जब कितने सारे अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स हैं और वो अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स क्या क्या कवर करते हैं, सो दैट जब उसके बारे में बोर्ड में डिस्कशन हो रहा है तो आप अपने आप को अकेला महसूस ना करें, and you are able to contribute and participate in the discussions and the deliberations which are being done at the board level. Now let's come to the last point, and that is as independent director, you also need to have good अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स. और यहाँ पे मैं बताऊं फ्रेंड्स कि कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता है कि आप फाइनेंस प्रोफेशनल हैं या आप नॉन फाइनेंस प्रोफेशनल हैं. एज ए नॉन फाइनेंस प्रोफेशनल ऑल्सो योर अंडरस्टैंडिंग अबाउट दीज 5 थिंग्स really got to be good. And why really got to be good? Because दिस इज नॉट समथिंग वेरी डिफिकल्ट. ये ऐसी कोई मुश्किल काम नहीं है कि एक लॉयर को समझ में ना आए या एक इंजीनियर को समझ में ना आए या एक आर्किटेक्ट को समझ में ना आए. ऐसा इसमें कुछ भी नहीं है. लेकिन ये 5 चीजें एज एन इंडिपेंडेंट डायरेक्टर आपको बड़ी ही अच्छी तरीके से समझनी चाहिए. सो क्या क्या समझने की जरूरत है कि प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस क्या है और वो क्या बताता है, बैलेंस शीट क्या है वो क्या बताती है, कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट क्या है वो क्या बताता है, और ये तीनों में क्या रिलेशनशिप है, एंड फाइनली फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट को कैसे रीड किया जाता है. लेट अस स्पेंड सम टाइम ऑन देम वन बाय वन. सो फ्रेंड्स, दिस इज टिपिकली इज द प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस ऑफ एनी कंपनी. तो हिंदुस्तान में जितनी भी कंपनियां हैं वो लिस्टेड हों, अनलिस्टेड हों, प्राइवेट हों, पब्लिक लिमिटेड हों, कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. हिंदुस्तान में जितनी भी कंपनियां हैं उन्होंने फॉर द फाइनेंशियल रिपोर्टिंग, फॉर द पर्पस ऑफ रिपोर्टिंग टू द शेयर होल्डर्स, फॉर द पर्पस ऑफ रिपोर्टिंग टू द गवर्नमेंट, have to prepare their profit and loss statement, which will be in this format. So starting from the revenue, other income, you will have the total revenue, then you will take all the expenses, then you will take the total expenses. So from the total revenue, you will minus the total expenses. What you will get is your total revenue less total expenses. You will make adjustment for extraordinary item in case if there are any, and what you will get in the bottom is known as profit before tax. अब उसमें से आप क्या करेंगे, टैक्स को माइनस करेंगे और जो आपके हाथ में बचेगा दैट इज योर नेट प्रॉफिट और प्रॉफिट आफ्टर टैक्स। पर ये जो फॉर्मेट मैं आपके साथ में शेयर कर रहा हूं फ्रेंड्स, दिस इज मोर एप्लीकेबल टू द पीपल हु आर फ्रॉम द फाइनेंस साइड एंड हु आर फ्रॉम द अकाउंट साइड। यानी कि कंपनी में जिन लोगों की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है फाइनेंशियल रिपोर्टिंग की, उनके लिए ये प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस को समझना जरूरी है। लेकिन एज एन इंडिपेंडेंट डायरेक्टर ऑफ द बोर्ड ऑफ अ कंपनी हु इज नॉट रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर द प्रिपरेशन ऑफ द फाइनेंशियल अकाउंट्स ऑफ अ कंपनी or financial statements of a company, you do not have to worry about this format. As an independent director, what you and I need to worry as far as the P&L is concerned, मुझे और आपको P&L में क्या समझने की जरूरत है? मुझे और आपको P&L में समझने की जरूरत है कि ग्रॉस प्रॉफिट क्या है, what is the gross profit and how do you get the gross profit. So gross profit is sales minus material cost and the manufacturing expenses, or material cost and manufacturing expenses combined together are known as COGS. कहने का क्या मतलब है? कहने का मतलब ये है कि जब आप आपकी टॉप लाइन में से, सेल में से COGS माइनस करते हैं तो आपके हाथ में क्या आता है? ग्रॉस प्रॉफिट. दैट इज व्हाट यू एंड आई एज एन इंडिपेंडेंट डायरेक्टर नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड. ग्रॉस प्रॉफिट में से आप क्या माइनस करते हैं? SG&A माइनस करते हैं, यानी कि सेलिंग जनरल एंड एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव एक्सपेंसेस माइनस करते हैं, और अब आपके हाथ में जो बचता है उसको क्या कहते हैं? उसको कहते हैं एबिटा. आई एम श्योर ये टर्म आपने बहुत बार सुनी होगी, एबिटा, बिकॉज पूरी दुनिया में एबिटा इज अ वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट नंबर. एंड हाउ डू यू गेट दिस नंबर और हाउ डू यू गेट दिस फिगर? तो आप ग्रॉस प्रॉफिट के फिगर में से आप माइनस करते हैं आपका SG&A, सेलिंग जनरल एंड एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव एक्सपेंसेस. आपके हाथ में जो आता है उसको बोलते हैं एबिटा. एबिटा को याद रखिए कैश ऑपरेटिंग प्रॉफिट भी बोलते हैं. एबिटा को कैश ऑपरेटिंग प्रॉफिट भी बोलते हैं. और कैश ऑपरेटिंग प्रॉफिट में से आप क्या करेंगे? कैश ऑपरेटिंग प्रॉफिट में से आप माइनस करेंगे डेप्रिसिएशन एंड आप माइनस करेंगे एमोर्टाइजेशन. तो अब जो आपके हाथ में बचेगा उसको बोलते हैं ऑपरेटिंग प्रॉफिट, और उसको बोलते हैं EBIT. EBIT में से यू विल माइनस द फाइनेंस कॉस्ट. अब जो आपके हाथ में बचेगा उसको बोलते हैं EBT, अर्निंग बिफोर टैक्स. EBT में से आप टैक्स माइनस करेंगे और जो आपके हाथ में बचेगा उसको बोलते हैं अर्निंग आफ्टर टैक्स. उसको अर्निंग आफ्टर टैक्स कहिए, उसको नेट इनकम कहिए, नेट प्रॉफिट कहिए, सबका मतलब एक ही है. अब उसमें से आप क्या करिए? उसमें से आप डिविडेंड माइनस करिए और जो आपके हाथ में बचेगा उसको बोलते हैं retained profit or retained earnings. And when you total the profit after tax with the depreciation and amortization, what you get in your hand is known as cash accrual or internal accrual. So this is how, friends, you need to understand profit and loss as an independent director. So the profit explained here, please remember, is the roadmap used by the CEOs and CEOs and all high अचीवर्स फॉर रीचिंग टू दी टॉप. सो अगर आपकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस के बारे में अच्छी है तो पूरे चांसेस है कि आप बहुत जल्दी से जल्दी आप टॉप के ऊपर पहुंच सकते हैं. बैलेंस शीट को कैसे समझेंगे? सो बैलेंस शीट, देयर इज एसेट साइड ऑफ द बैलेंस शीट एंड देयर इज अ लायबिलिटी साइड ऑफ द बैलेंस शीट. सो हाउ डू वी अंडरस्टैंड द बैलेंस शीट? वी विल अंडरस्टैंड द बैलेंस शीट एसेट्स एंड द लायबिलिटीज. सो असेट्स का मतलब क्या है? व्हाट कंपनी ओन्स. लायबिलिटीज का मतलब क्या है? व्हाट कंपनी ओज टू आउटसाइडर्स. एंड दिस इज हाउ यू विल अंडरस्टैंड दी बैलेंस शीट. उसके बाद में आपको समझने की जरूरत है कि कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट क्या है. कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट के बारे में आपको बताऊं कि there are only three kinds of activities as far as the cash flow is concerned. Number one is the operating activity. Number two is the investing activity, and number three is the financing activity. Operating activity, cash flow from the operating activity, इसका क्या मतलब है? The cash flow that you generate or you get from the operations of the company is your operating cash flow from the operating activities. Investing इसका क्या मतलब है? यानी कि जो आप पैसा बिजनेस में लगाते हैं, that is your cash flow from the investing activities. And finally, cash flow from the finance activities का मतलब क्या है? कि आप assets purchase करते हैं, तो एसेट्स को परचेज करने के लिए जो आप पैसा लेके आते हैं, कहां से लेके आते हैं? दैट इज योर कैश फ्लो फ्रॉम दी ऑपरेटिंग एक्टिविटीज. अब सवाल ये है कि व्हाट आर द गोल्डन प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ एफिशिएंट कैश फ्लो मैनेजमेंट. एंड लेट मी टेल यू फ्रेंड्स, देयर आर 4 golden principles of efficient cash flow management, and that is number 1, cash flow from the operating activities got to be maximum. Number 2, cash flow from the investing activities got to be negative. And क्यों नेगेटिव? अगर नेगेटिव है इसका मतलब क्या है? इसका मतलब है कि कैश फ्लो बाहर जा रहा है, अगर बाहर जा रहा है इसका मतलब क्या है कि आप और एसेट्स परचेज कर रहे हैं। अगर आप और एसेट्स परचेज कर रहे हैं इसका मतलब क्या है कि आप कैपेक्स कर रहे हैं, कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर कर रहे हैं, आप नए एसेट्स क्रिएट कर रहे हैं। नए एसेट्स कर रहे हैं इसका मतलब क्या है, इसका मतलब ये है कि आप कंपनी की अर्निंग कैपेसिटी बढ़ा रहे हैं। दैट ऑफ कोर्स इज अ गुड साइन। And the third is cash flow from the financing activities got to be positive in good mix of debt and equity। यानी कि जो फाइनेंसिंग एक्टिविटी से जो कैश फ्लो है वो पॉजिटिव होना चाहिए। क्यों? क्योंकि अल्टीमेटली अगर आपको कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर करना है तो पैसा तो लगेगा। कुछ पैसा पैसा आपको बिजनेस में से आएगा, प्रॉफिट से आएगा, और कुछ पैसा आपको डेट एंड इक्विटी के थ्रू रेज करना पड़ेगा। Finally, the golden rule of efficient working capital working good golden principle of efficient cash flow management is over the years, cash flow from three types of activities should show a positive increase. Now, finally, friends, how to read the profit and how to read the financial statement? तो financial statements को read करने के लिए पहली चीज जो आपको समझनी है, how to read the profitability and performance. Second is how to read the liquidity. Third is how to read the solvency. Fourth is how to read efficiency in utilization of fixed assets. Fifth is how to read efficiency and effectiveness in working capital management. And seventh is the EVA, economic value added. And finally, of course, you also need to understand the DuPont analysis. DuPont analysis. And this is what, friends, I'm going to cover in one of my next videos, where my focus is going to be on these 8 categories of financial ratios that you will read, और these ratios are used world over। पूरी दुनिया में ये जो 8 categories के ratios हैं, इनका इस्तेमाल होता है for the purpose of decision making. And this is what we will cover in one of our next videos. So with this, friends, we come to the close of this session. I hope you found this session useful. If you did, then please share it with everyone. So when you get the video, share it with everyone. And I'm sure you may have certain questions on this session that I have just delivered with you. तो आप क्या कर सकते हैं? Post your doubts and your questions. Will ensure that I answer them in due course. Friends, remember, our mission is finance knowledge for everyone. Why are we doing it? We are doing it because we want that everyone should have good understanding of finance. क्योंकि हमारा ये सोचना है कि अगर लोगों की फाइनेंस की अंडरस्टैंडिंग अच्छी होगी तो लोग नॉट ओनली दे विल बी एबल टू मैनेज देयर बिजनेस वेल, दे विल आल्सो बी एबल टू मैनेज देयर लाइफ वेल। तो अगर लोग अपने बिजनेस को अच्छी तरह से मैनेज कर पाते हैं, अपनी लाइफ को अच्छी तरह से मैनेज कर पाते हैं, तो आई एम श्योर यू कैन इमेजिन दिस वर्ल्ड इज रियली गोइंग टू बिकम a very, very nice and happy place. And friends, that is what our mission is. So join us in this mission by liking and sharing these videos with others, and by subscribing to this YouTube channel. Incidentally, friends, on my YouTube channel, there are over 1,500 videos on various aspects of finance, management, leadership, work-life balance, and valuations. So visit my YouTube channel, benefit from it, like the videos, subscribe the channel, and share all these videos with everyone, and be a direct contributor to this mission of spreading knowledge of finance to everyone. You are of course welcome to join me and connect with me, get connected with me through YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and of course also on WhatsApp group. So with this, friends, I come to the conclusion of this session. Thank you so much. Such a pleasure to have done this session, and hope to see you again soon with some other topic going forward. Thank you.